Welcome to Cryptid Encounters, where your stories are heard here. Tonight, we're going to hear about 13 bends. So come, sit next to the campfire. Here we go. When I was young, religion was introduced to me. I was mesmerized by the spiritual realm. Then I saw the movie Ghost. Seeing them trying to contact the dead put me on a paranormal knowledge hunt, because it had me foolishly set in my head that I would be able to make contact with my deceased father. I monkeyed around with the Ouija board, but, someone was always moving it. My friends and I hung out in old graveyards and explored abandoned, broken down buildings in hopes to get an exciting scare. Normally just a bat or a rat or something like that. There is one place, though, that I can truly say is haunted. This place that I am referring to is called 13 Bends. There is a lot of rumor history about this place, a lot of fact as well, but a lot of it is also fiction. This is a location north of Pittsburgh called Campbell's Run Road. It goes about 500 feet in and then turns into a dirt road. After about a quarter of a mile, it turns into power lines and the road pretty much ends. From that point, you can turn left and go into the old mines, or go straight into the grass power lines, or hook a left onto the narrow trail. That's 13 Bends. It's really called Old Indian Trail. There's 13 bends when you count walking up, but only 12 when going down. Every time. It's weird. I can't explain that. The bad juju started there between the settlers and the Native Americans, but I don't have much intel on that. There was, in the 1700s, an orphanage that allowed the military to do testing on children there. Eventually, the orphanage burned down with all of the children inside of it, but none of the staff. Later in time, an all-girls Catholic school was erected there. I do not know for how long of a time period, but 13 students there were essayed and murdered. Each of those students were buried on a bend, hence 13 bends. The predator was eventually caught and was executed. He was the school's janitor and groundskeeper. Over time, the school had burnt down to the ground. I'm not sure how true this is, but I had heard from people who have lived in that area that during the old times, that on the old Indian Trail, that there was a sinkhole that opened up and swallowed a police car and had taken the life of an officer that was in the vehicle. Again, I do not know how true that is, but I have seen holes up there large enough to swallow cars. On the 25th of January, 1904, one of the mines up there exploded and ended 179 coal miners and 2 aid workers. It was ranked among the 10 worst mining disasters in history for America. To this day, you can still see the ghost of the miners walking the dirt road to and from work. There was a story that a guy sacrificed his 2 daughters and his wife to a demonic being. Again, I do not know how true this is because I haven't seen the news article or the court cases for it, but I did find a very strange rock structure that looks like a sacrificial stone. It may have been in 2012 or 13, but a lineman was electrocuted while working on the lines up there on where Campbell Road ends, or Campbell's Road ends, and Old Indian Trail starts. Far up to the right, at the top of the hill through the woods, where's the Health South Rehabilitation Center is, they built an extension onto the property to add another facility. But instead, the portion that they built onto the healthcare center burned. At the top of the old Indian Trail, where they cut down a portion of the woods and they built an enclave. Portions of the enclave that were built on that property were $1 million homes. Guess what? Those $1 million homes they built to touch the property going down to the old Indian Trail all burned. I've heard more recently that a group of teens went out but got too afraid to ascend the hill. One of them stepped up to the plate and went up to the bends, and alone, he wasn't seen for 3 days. When he was found, he was at the foot of the trail nude and in shock and was covered from head to toe in cuts. There's Jersey barriers up now, and it's illegal to go there. I wonder what happened to him. There's a lot of paranormal activity there, from apparitions, ghost cars, orbs, and even scarier stuff. It seems to have become a hot spot for adventurers, teens, ghost hunters, and even satanic cults, to the point that the police department went online and has even gone to the point of making a proxy locations to throw people off from the other 13 Bends locations. Yes, it is that deep. Police departments have literally gone online and made proxy locations for 13 Bends. So if you go online and look up 13 Bends, you are going to get multiple locations. The spot I am telling you about is the real location. Now that you got a little perspective on a little bit of backstory of this cursed place, let's get to my personal experiences there. I started going there when I was a teenager, maybe 13. I was 13 when I started going, and I started going every weekend when I was 16, going on 17. We would go out in groups in 2 cars. When we get to the end of the dirt road, we would get out of our car and pour baby powder all over it. It was me, Gerald, Angela, Patty, Kayla, Krista, Shannon, and Chris. All the girls stayed in the car while us guys went up in the tree lines. Gerald lit up a cigarette, and next thing you know, the girls were screaming, crying, and flipping out. We ran back to the cars and get the lights were flashing and individually, and the radio was full volume running through the channels. I asked if they were messing with us, but Gerald pulled the keys out of his pockets and no, they weren't. Everyone started freaking out and piling in the vehicle, but Chris stopped dead in his tracks and let go of the front of the door handle. Tears welled up in his eyes, and then he started choking himself. We tried to make him let go, but his grip was firm until he lost consciousness. We got him in the back seat of the car, and Gerald turned the car around. He stopped to get out and grab his hat, and then the car started moving up a hill. It was an uphill grade, and the car started moving by itself. Gerald jumped on the hood and rode it. He was literally on the hood of the car, and the car was moving by itself, and it kept moving until it came to a halt at the entrance. And when it stopped at the entrance, there was kids' handprints all over the car. And another time, and another note, Chris had no memory of him choking himself. What happened to him, he had zero memory of. Another time, I took my friend Mike up there. Now, I'll admit, he was eating shrooms. That didn't help, but I think there's much more to it. You'll see why if you paid attention to the history of this place, because I told him nothing about it. Everything was cool and normal until we got off of Campbell's Run. and we got on the old Indian trail. About a quarter of the way up, he started acting off. He wasn't Mike anymore. He was at full speed. He sprinted the whole way up the hill, and mind you, he has bad knees and is not in good shape whatsoever. But he ran like a track star, and this hill is a full incline, and he was not missing a breath. He disappeared into the darkness, and I heard a loud, like a real loud trailer door slam. So no, he just didn't just run up in that abandoned trailer up the hill where the dude lived that supposedly sacrificed his family. No, I did not. I didn't even show him that place up there. But I just heard him go up in there. So he had no clue of that. So I walked up to that trailer that he had no clue of being there. And then the door flung open. Yep, that's where he went. And he was in a full hypnotic state. He came down the steps, dropped to his hands and feet, digging his fingers into the ground, repeating over and over, sacrifice the children, eat the wife, over and over, and that is all he kept saying. I never told him anything about this place. He seemed like he was possessed. He crawled at me fast, repeating those lines over and over. He tackled me to the ground. I said, Mike, I'm not fighting you. And then he started repeating, you build it and we burn it. And he started headbutting me several times. I got him restrained, and he was like an animal. After I got him off the hill, again, just like Chris, he had no memory of anything that happened up there. He didn't even have memory of us going up the hill. So, because he asked me, he says, are we going to go up there? And I was like, dude, we were already up there. And he says, no, we weren't. So it was time for us to leave. I went up there one Halloween. Well, it wasn't Halloween. It was the night before Halloween, before the Jersey barriers were placed. So but they still had just put the no trespassing signs up. So I had a ghillie suit on, and there was a group of people coming up through. So I hid in the bushes. Thank God I did, because a cop came through and gave the group of people that was coming through, they all got citations and trespassed right in front of me too. And I'm glad I didn't fart, because I would have gotten a fine too. Well, what the funny thing was is a few days later, I saw on a 13 Ben's blog that somebody saw a green baby Bigfoot. It was me they saw. But that's besides the point. After the cop yelled at them and gave them their fines, and I held my position until he turned around and came back through, because I ain't stupid. After the cop came back through and was gone, I made my move back on the trail. I noticed from behind the headlights coming again, and I was like, oh crap, he's back. So I dove back into the patches of stinging nettle. That sucked, because I seen those headlights coming, and I just jumped into the foliage. I didn't care what kind of foliage it was. I wasn't getting trespassed. I jumped in a stinging nettle. My face and hands were itching and burning. The lights were getting brighter and brighter, but there was no car. The headlights passed, but no car. It was disembodied lights. I got fooled 5 times in one night by phantom car headlights. I had no choice but to take them serious, because if it turned out to be a cop, I'd have gotten a fine for trespassing. I went up there one night after a big snowfall. We had about 13 inches. And I was about to hit Old Indian Trail, and I saw what looked like lanterns being carried. and I couldn't make out what was being said, but I heard two people talking. I went to flank around to a rear position in case they were cops, but to my surprise, not one track or scuff in the deep snow was noticeable. The snow was untouched, but I was seeing orbs. My wife and I have done extensive investigations in this spot. If you go to the end of Campbell's Run Road, to the front of Old Indian Trail, and head up the power lines, you'll find where the all-girls Catholic school was, but you really got to be careful. Hunters set coyote traps all over the place there. Plus, there's a well you could fall into, and if you fall in there, nobody's going to hear you, so nobody's coming for you. Now, before you get to Old Indian Trail, right before you turn off, there's a small bridge to get to the mining area. You can see where there used to be a bridge. This old bridge led across the creek to the old orphanage. The bridge is long gone, but some of the orphanage foundation still remains and is there to this day. Kind of strange how we find it, being that I've been going there for years. My wife, she was my girlfriend at the time, and I decided to hike there, but we were in shape at the time and wanted to do a 30-mile ruck, which we would follow the railroad tracks, cross the bridge, took a right, go left, and the Guys Run Road, and finally left on the Campbell's Run Road, which is the entrance to 13 Bends. And then we got to the end of Campbell's Run Road, which we saw look like flashlights coming down the Old Indian Trail. And then they turned off, and when we come back further down the hill, the startling issue is that every time the lights flickered, they lit up faster, and it was as if they were honing in on us. I thought, oh shit, it's the cops. So we head towards the mining ponds, and we were laying low, both prone. By the time went on, and nothing but just one thing, it was just these lights, and we realized that they were orbs, and they were literally glowing under the full moon. We would see them dancing around the woods. So we slowly made our way over in the wood line because we noticed that this foundation of this orphanage was glowing. So we were passing through the thickets of the tree line, prone position, and we crawled our way through, and then we came to the block layers of the orphanage's foundations. Why did this structure glow in the moonlight as if it was a treasure at the end of a rainbow? We don't know. But when we got to the illuminated wonder that we followed, faded, glow completely went away. We tinkered around and looked at the surroundings. That's when we saw that there used to be a bridge. My wife sat down on the tallest position of the stone wall foundation to rest her legs, and at that moment we saw different color light balls were coming down the hill, and we heard a little girl crying. We got freaked out and took the long way hike. It was like 15 miles home because our whole hike was 30 miles there and back. It was the whole thing. So we took the 15-mile hike home because we got freaked out when we started hearing a little girl crying. But when we got home, our feet felt like we had hornets stinging the bottoms of them with every step. It was an awesome adventure. But when we opened our front door, our kitchen walls and ceiling were covered in handprints. But it was only the left hand, and it was a child's print. But these prints went from our kitchen, through our living room, through the hall, and into our bathroom. And it smelled like sulfur, and it was like burnt soot, as if you touched burnt wood and then went around and touched your walls. All of our walls was like that. Ever since that day, my wife and I have seen this little girl. No matter where we've moved, no matter where we've gone, we have always seen this little blonde girl. She doesn't bother us, but we always see her. But if anybody ever wants to go to this location of 13 Bends, I will show pictures of the map of where this is. It is north of Pittsburgh in Harmer. It used to be called Harmerville, but they had just changed the name to Harmer. I will show the location, but mind you, if you go there and get caught, they will trespass you and you will receive fines. The squiggly line is the windy road that we call the Bends. The green line indicates where the bridge used to be that led to the orphanage that is now removed. The purple dot represents where the orphanage was, where the foundation still is. The white line / dot represents where the foundation of the old Catholic school for girls was. The red dot represents where the trailer is, where the man lived who sacrificed his family. This is the monument dedicated to all the coal miners who were killed in the blast. Have you had a cryptid encounter? Or a creepy experience with a haunting or a ghost or something paranormal? And you want to hear it on this show? Just email me, squatchtopic.pa@gmail.com.